Welcome back to another Monday morning chat. That's what we're going to call it now, because certain wordage that I used to call this Monday morning talk, chat, rant, I cannot use that wordage anymore because it hurts certain people's feelings. And so we're going to be talking today about victory gardens. Why are we talking about victory gardens? Well, I'm going to read to you a quick little article here from the Nebraska Farming in the 40s website about victory gardens and how they came to be during the World War II, I believe it was, and how the current events are playing out. Many are still in the mindset that things are going back to normal, but they don't see ripple effects. They don't see what's happening on a global event. Many people can't see past their nose these days, and that's why we're in the position that we are in. As a part of a war effort, the government not rationed foods like sugar, butter, milk, cheese, eggs, coffee, meat, canned goods. Labor and transportation shortages made it hard to harvest and move fruits and vegetables to market. So the government turned to its citizens and encouraged them to plant victory gardens. They wanted individuals to provide their own fruits and vegetables. Nearly 20 million Americans answered the call. They planted gardens in their backyards, empty lots, and even city rooftops. Neighbors pooled their resources, planted different kinds of foods, and formed cooperatives, all in the name of patriotism. Farm families, of course, had been planting gardens and preserving produce for generations. Now, their urban cousin got into the act, all in the name of patriotism. Magazines such as the Saturday Evening Post and Life printed stories about victory gardens, and women's magazines gave instructions on how to grow and preserve garden produce. Families were encouraged to can their own vegetables and save commercial canned goods for the troops. In 1943, families brought 315,000 pressure cookers used in the process of canning, compared to 66,000 in 1942. The government and businesses urged people to make gardening a family and community event. The result of victory gardening: the U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates that more than 20 million victory gardens were planted. Fruit and vegetables harvested in the home and community plots was estimated to be 9 to 11 million tons. An amount equal to all commercial production of fresh vegetables, so the program made a difference. I'll leave a link, like I always do, to this little blurb here. But for those that are living in cities and complaining that they do not have the availability to grow, are not looking hard enough as to what options are out there and what innovation and technology has evolved to make growing your own food that much easier. You also have to think, why is Big Brother telling us that there are food shortages coming, but that's all they're telling you? They're not giving you any other options. They're not telling you, hey, listen, this is what happened in World War II or at the end of World War I. And this worked. Why aren't we doing it again? They're just saying, oh, you're going to have food shortages. Good luck. Think about that. They're leaving you out to dry. And there's many ways to do gardening no matter what. I've left videos in the past where I've talked about this: community gardens, vertical gardening, community gardening, things of that nature. And we need to understand that when they say shortages, that does not mean that it is not on the shelf. It means that it is not available at an acceptable price that you will pay. I saw a gentleman the other day in Ontario, Canada, mind you, and a watermelon was $16 for one watermelon. That is astronomical. Absolutely ridiculous. Organic free-range eggs are $8 a dozen. Why are we not talking about solutions? Why are we just moving on as if nothing is going on? It's as if people have been so disconnected that they would rather live with a comfortable lie than an uncomfortable truth. And us here, especially in North America, have lived a very pampered life. And so, being that we've had such a pampered life here in North America, and not many for generations have witnessed war, any sort of hardship, I think we're gonna be in for a rude awakening. It doesn't take much, just a couple of Google searches to look at what's happening around in the world around. What other countries are doing. They're hoarding grain, they're hoarding supplies, they're not exporting. They're banning foods from being exported. They're hoarding their own supplies for their own country. But not for the people. You gotta understand that. They're not holding it for the little guys. They're holding it for the higher echelon, let's call them, what they deem to call themselves. So if you think that Big Brother is going to come and help you and there's going to be food banks and all that, well, you're going to be one of those waiting in the bread line. It's easy to say I don't know rather than how do I know? How do I figure this out? How am I going to lessen the impact of this fragile economic system that we have on that is on everything? Let's say there is no food shortages and that the food is still going to be put into the stores. And we're going to ignore that we have 50% of the states have droughts. The prairies have droughts. Let's forget about that. Let's just talk simple economics with the fuel prices. How does things get moved? If the fuel prices are at an all-time high, the cost to repair certain things also are going to be at an all-time high because it costs money and fuel to get parts to fix parts. And we're seeing that already too. It's the ripple effects just starting to come out. And what's interesting is the people out there that aren't paying attention keep getting swindled by the latest and greatest on that box on the living room table that you have in there called the television. You get swindled by the latest and greatest. There's people that are out there doing the things, learning how to freeze dry, learning how to can, getting their own chickens, their own meat birds, raising their own cattle, raising their own, figuring it out, learning it. But there are those out there that would rather just sit in their room playing their video games, staying soft, not learning anything. I think that's enough for a Monday morning. I would say you're not late in the lower states, but if you're up here, you need to get those gardens going, get in a community established. If you can't grow, what can you produce? What good are you? What can you give forth to your community members? Is it labor? Is it knowledge? If you don't have the things that you can trade and barter with, there's always something. A skill is something that can never be taken away. Learn your new skill. Have a good day.